This is Sportish.
Do it better.
This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish.
This is Sportish. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for finding us. We know that can be difficult sometimes on For the Fans, but we know that you're grinding it out with us, and you found it. You got here. You did it. Tip of the cap to you. I'm Geoff Brault. He's Dr. Keith Strudler, director of the School of Communication and Media at Montclair State University. Some places you can always find us. You're not beholden to that cruel mistress that is time. You can always find us on YouTube. You can always find us on ftfnext.com, and you can always find us wherever your favorite podcasts are served. Keith, this is going to be a big show. And this is going to be a big show because this is the show nobody thought would happen. We all thought that Sportish was going to end after last week's episode when you and I inevitably killed each other and or had a great falling out when we were physically present together for the first time in over a year and a half. Sure. Instead, what happened, Keith, when I went to northern New Jersey and we had Sportish Day out? What happened was nothing short of magical. We had a Ferris Bueller-esque day last weekend.
Well, first of all, I think we had a magical brunch, although it almost got off on the wrong foot when you unfortunately got, will not name the establishment, fine establishment. You unfortunately got, well, first of all, they didn't have what we ordered. We ordered something. We both ordered something and the foundation of which was bread. And Correct. Come to find out that a bakery had run out of bread. So that was problem A.
And by the way, not just run out of bread, but as I was learning about this establishment that you took us to, it seemed like the bread that they ran out of was their signature product.
Yes.
Like this was all over the menu as we've got the best brioche bread in the world. And we said, well, then obviously I'll get something with brioche bread. And they told us after we ordered and paid, they go, slight issue, we don't have any brioche, which really limited the options thereafter.
Yes, but we recovered. We got something delicious. Then the problem was, of course, they brought out the wrong order to you. I thought you were going to make a situation, a bit of a scene. You handled it professionally. We got our food, ended up having a wonderful day. You actually became friends with my dog, which didn't seem like it was going to happen. The day almost ended very early when the dog decided.
Rough start. And you did this quintessential thing that every dog owner does when the dog is growling at me and trying to nip at me. You go, he never does that. And I go, well, I guess I'm special. Also, this doesn't seem to be a solution to the situation. But after that rough start, I think me and Hudson are boys now. He learned that I'm a prime source of belly rubs.
I do think it's always a problem when a dog owner is like, oh, he doesn't bite or he's never bitten before. He's never bitten before is a terrible thing to say. It's a terrible thing to say. He didn't bite you though. So everything went well. Then of course we went to see your first live soccer match, which was an NYCFC match played in the Red Bull Stadium in New Jersey. It was kind of the best of all worlds because we got a superior stadium experience as well as we're watching our favorite team now, the NYCFC soccer club, which of course it was also free hat night. And as you can see behind Geoff, interesting fun fact, both of us got youth hats.
Yes.
Both of us, because they fit better.
It turns out that Sportish Pod has very small heads. Or Adidas makes very large youth hats.
You know, I got very, very conscious about that. See, I didn't know I was getting a youth hat. I just put on a hat. I like this one and I took it. And then after I looked and I saw it was a youth hat, then I started to be like, oh, my head hurts. Like it started to get into, started bothering me. All that shit. So we went to the game. Now, we were expecting to be treated a little bit like celebrities. I mean, you know, two hosts of a show show up together. I mean, that's kind of a deal. It would be like Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon showing up together to something. We knew we were going to probably get noticed and probably they'll be, you know, they were going to take advantage of the fact that we were there enjoying the experience. I don't think either of us expected the kind of treatment that we got.
No. I mean, first of all, unlimited soda. That was a perk that I mean, I don't think the King of England would have gotten unlimited soda, which, you know, in hindsight was a good perk because The human stomach can really only take so much carbonation. We had set it over under at 3.5 cups of soda, and the under came in, and it wasn't close.
So we got unlimited soda. That was an unexpected perk. Thank you, NYCFC Soccer Club. Secondly, and neither of us expected this, they featured us up on the big board.
Yes.
They featured us up on the big board. It was a surprise to me. You know how you knew it was a surprise to me? Because I yelled like a 7-year-old. Trying to do it. Yeah, there we are. Oh, yeah.
That is actually a perfect reenactment. And if you'd like to see the picture that Keith just reenacted reacting to, it is available on our Twitter account at SportishPod. You can check it out. It was so loud, and it was at a moment of the match where there was no other action. It was during a drinks break, so there was nothing going on. The stadium was quiet. The fans behind the NYCFC goal had ceased drumming. So, I mean, you could hear a pin drop in this stadium at present. Keith yelled so loud that another fan sitting nearly an entire section away had to speak up and comment on, are you taking a picture of the video board, which you were? So in a sense, you were taking a picture of us.
Yep.
With the camera that took the original picture of us. I mean, this is like Tenet for you to take this picture. And now that picture resides on our Twitter account. And we thought for about 85 minutes of soccer that was going to be the high watermark of the match. But Keith, we were sorely mistaken.
Oh, absolutely. Look, we came there for one reason, was to see the most exciting soccer that you could possibly see. And there's nothing more exciting in soccer than a tie. I think that's the gold standard, a low scoring tie game. That's what I've been told is soccer at its finest, because you really have to appreciate soccer. Winning is not part of the game. We thought that. So when our game was tied 1-1, as we were now in extra time, which for those of you that don't know soccer well, extra time is however long the ref decides they want to remain on the field.
I mean, let's even back up to the 1-1. Yeah. It was 1-0 to DC United for the majority of the match. NYCFC made a blunder early around the 12th minute or so, and they conceded a goal. Like, I'm using the soccer lingo now that I've been indoctrinated into the sport. And it looked like they were just going to park the bus. We got the impression, and I haven't done anything resembling research, that DC United is not the best side. They seem like they're a bottom of the table team. If you will.
They're actually, to be fair, they're a mid-tier. They're a mid-tier club.
Oh, wow, boy, how bad are the bad teams?
Yeah, they're new.
And, clearly NYCFC was the better side. They were creating more chances. They were more active. They had more of the ball. But they were trailing. They were trailing for the majority of the match. But, I mean, I kept saying this to you. It feels like a goal is coming. It feels like a goal is coming. Because that's a thing that I've heard people say in soccer matches. And then a goal came in very dramatic fashion with about 5 minutes left.
A header off a corner. Time. Yes, a header off a corner. Absolutely.
And we thought that was going to secure the tie, which was the result that I felt would be most fair for my first live soccer match. I feel like if you get a result on your first match, it spoils you for the sheer pointlessness of the 0-0 ties to come in the future. So I felt like what we needed was a tie. And I got to be honest, it seemed like both teams also felt like what we needed was a tie until the 94th minute brought the drama.
Yes, and so when it also looked as if DC United might break through on a corner on the far end, and of course, much more difficult because we were sitting near one of the goals, kind of in the corner kick area. And DC United decided, obviously in deference to respect the tie, no, we won't take the easy shot into the goal here to end the game. We'll allow it that way. The NYCFC goalie threw the ball when DC United, I believe, had already decided the game was over and was largely walking towards the bench. I think it was a gentleman's tie at that point. One player streaked up the side, ran through what appeared to only be one defender, so only one person was still engaging with the soccer match at that point. We are now seconds from the end, found his way into the box and shot it to the left corner of the goal with barely a touch from the goalie. Game over, essentially. Now, of course, you didn't get what you wanted, which was the walk-off goal.
Correct. Yes, I've already decided now that I've been to one live soccer match that I can improve the sport, because I feel those that I am now maybe not the world's leading expert, but I'm certainly have to now be considered amongst them. Yep. If a goal is scored, Keith, in extra time, in a tie game, that should be the end. Yes. That should be the end.
Golden goal. Should always be a golden goal.
If you're in extra time in a tie game and you score, that should be the end. Now, I would listen to the idea that it would have to be the last minute of extra time. All right, I'll heed that if you're one of those people who thinks, well, there's still 3 minutes left. Anything can happen. All right, maybe. But if a goal is scored in the last minute of extra time, and this goal was technically scored, there were 4 minutes of extra time. It was technically scored in the 5th minute of extra time by about 4 seconds. So does DC United have a case that the match should have ended with Thiago streaking down the field? Perhaps. But this is not a sport. It may have been around for 130 years. But again, this is not a sport that cares beans about time. It will start when we say it starts, and it will end whenever we damn well please. So Thiago scored. But then, after all the jubilation in the stands, people are throwing free soda up in the sky and they're tossing their complimentary hats onto the field. Then we have to go to the least riveting part of the match, which was everybody lines up again at the center circle. DC United has to kick it off. They make one pass to the right side of the field, and then it's over.
Then you get your whistle. To be fair, doesn't that happen in football when they still have to hike the ball and run it off the field? Like there's 4 seconds left. There was a change of possession. You have to do that. Doesn't this happen in a lot of sports? The only difference is in soccer, since there is no determined amount of time, the refs seem to have an enormous amount of discretion to make up the rules as they go in soccer. That's part of the fun. What's not fun, though, is the players on both teams seem to know that, and they have quite a bit of input, it looks like. So it seems like the amount of conversation that happens between the players and the referee, including, I can't remember the blonde gentleman who had quite a few words for the ref.
I was calling him Yellow Shoes because I went into this match blind. I didn't know the name of a single player on either side. And so he was Yellow Shoes. I thought Yellow Shoes was going to get a yellow card because of how much he was jabbering with the official there.
Seemed to be parked off sides as part of the problem. But it was a glorious day. Look, we enjoyed the soccer experience. Thank you, NYCFC. But I think we also, essentially as invited guests of the organization, we really appreciate the kindness, the service, and so forth. And I mean, we're looking forward to another invitation. I think I'm going to say right now, when we get that invite, we are happy to come back as your guests. Is that fair to say?
Foolish not to invite us back. They are undefeated when we are in the building. They're undefeated when we're on the video board. Maybe they don't want to win the MLS Cup. I don't know what their goals are as an organization. It seems like what some of the other fans in our section were saying, it could just be to launder money and store players for Manchester City. That might be their goal. I don't know. I'm not involved in those types of decisions. But if their goals are to win matches, then they have to have us in that building. We have to be there.
Yeah, and I will say, we'd have to get some analytics software to figure this out. I can't calculate exactly how much free publicity we gave them, what the value of that is, right? What the actual monetary value of that is, but it might be enough to bring up, to at the very least, perhaps get another soccer ball, an extra soccer ball. I mean, we are adding real dollars to their bottom line. And by the way, we've now been a guest, obviously, in the Jersey version. We'd love to be at Yankee Stadium as well. So I think that's going to be our, one of our next trips, because, we'd be happy to, but we do want, I don't want to, beggars can't be choosers. We'd like good seats there. Yeah. A big stadium. I think we deserve that. I think we actually, I'm going to put it out there, and we'll send this over to NYCFC. I'm sure they'll get right back to us. They do have the chairs essentially on the pitch at Yankee Stadium.
Oh, that's an experience I think we should have.
Yes.
Yeah. And while you put that out there, I'll put this out there. Any other team in the MLS or any other major or not even major, we don't care. If you're a semi-professional team or higher anywhere in America, and you would like the services of Sportish, again, no team has ever lost when we were in the stands at their home stadium together. If you would like the services of Sportish,
I'll tell you right now, we brought the Iron Bowl home for Alabama. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. When we have been an invited guest of the organization together, we bring home the sauce, right? Yeah. We brought home the Iron Bowl. We just brought a huge win to NYCFC.
3 points.
3 points.
Two men, boosted them 3 points.
Fourth in the standings now in the East. Boy, now we're actually carrying a lot of pressure. So yes, we're we're happy to accept your invitation. I think we'll have to have a conversation about what we determine to be semi-pro, because so there is a line there, but we're happy. Look, anyone, if you pay your players legally or illegally, we'll be there. But I agree. We would like to be on the sidelines.
Something that I really missed. And it's one of those things you don't realize that you're missing until you experience it after a long time. It's the first time I'd been in a stadium who knows how long, 2 years, maybe. I had gone earlier in the weekend on Friday. I went to the Travelers Championship, the golf event outside of Hartford. That was the first live sports that I saw since the pandemic began, outside of games that I was working in empty arenas, but I don't count those. So being amongst fans again was really cool. And one thing that I missed was when a game ends the way the NYCFC match ends, as you're walking out, everyone's talking about it and they're recapping it and they're saying what they saw from their vantage point. And, you just get this sort of communal experience that you can get nowhere else but when you're at a live sporting event amongst tens of thousands of people. And that was a cool moment. That was like this is exceptionally normal and I really miss this and I'm glad it happened type of feeling.
I agree. I think, we were talking quite a bit about what will the post-pandemic life, which of course, as you and I have determined, started several weeks ago in the United States. Of course, it is long over. Virus be damned. And there was the conjecture at the beginning of the pandemic, of course, that we'll never wear pants again. We probably won't need cars, right? So, no one will ever live in a city ever again, right? We'll all just be farmers out in farmland. And the only city remaining in America will be Austin. That was just the general conjecture. As you can see, you start to miss some things. And as great as the televised sports experience is, and it is quite superior in some cases, there is nothing quite like a live sporting event, particularly a 2-hour live sporting event that's relatively close to my house.
So that was our day out at NYCFC. One final point to make about the outing. It was Keith's anniversary. This was how we spent your anniversary. You spent your wedding anniversary with me going to an MLS game.
The worst part of that. So first off, I have an explanation. Nothing about that is not true. I can't deny this on fact, right? So here's the long and short of it. So first off, the past week was very busy. I think as you knew, I had a very busy previous week. My kids were off to summer camp, and we had one day where we had to make 2 trips to the Poconos. We had Sloan's 8th grade graduation. It was taxing mentally and physically. So as you can imagine, by the time I got to weekend, my head was a blur. I really put everything into making sure I was giving my kids everything they needed. So sometimes when you're kind of unselfish like myself, you forget about your own kind of life and you just kind of, you're taking care of others, right? And I was concerned about making sure you had a good experience at the game and making sure. So that's A. B, my wife, Andra, she went to Houston. So she went to Houston from Thursday until Tuesday. So she left, Friday. She left Friday, right? And so she left on Friday. And I believe before when she had made the plane tickets, I think I was like, we're going to be gone for our anniversary. Of course, that was not a big deal. It's fine, right? At some point, once you break the double digits, don't kid yourself. Like it's a wash, right? At that point, it's just what gift do you buy? Now, the challenge for me came Sunday, not long before you arrived, when my wife called in the morning and she said, what you say on your anniversary, which is happy anniversary. And I didn't even have the wherewithal to kind of be like, yes, you too. I just said, oh, like I acted just the way I acted in the stadium when I was like, there we are. Like, it was just what came into my head. I was like, oh, and the worst part is, as Geoff pointed out, I was like, well, how the hell am I supposed to remember our anniversary? The place that I sit most of the time in our house, in the family room, you are literally staring directly into a photo album of our wedding that has the date scribed right on the front in gold. It is hard to not remember our anniversary. You have to work to forget my. So that did happen. But to be fair, while we didn't celebrate, time and tested love, we did also get to see a date in action at our lunch out, which we will just do not.
Yes, we did. Oh, again, you talk about things that you miss during the pandemic, people watching and eavesdropping on other people's conversations. Yes, that was a highlight of the day.
And the question, so we just kind of hovered. We went to eat outside. We kind of hovered around the conversation, and it seemed to be going poorly from our perspective. It wasn't going well. And the question that we should have hung around for was, she asked him, "Do you like sports?" And we were ready for a whopper of an answer. And you didn't like the fact that he was bragging about the fact that he got all toasted on a boys.
Yeah. So it didn't take long to size up this gentleman. Clearly a first date. And it's like a brunch date, or odd choice of venue. The kind of date you go on at 2 p.m. on a Sunday, which seems like an odd time to go on a first date. But anyway,
especially they're out of brioche. They're out of brioche bread anyway.
You're not getting French toast. So what are you even doing there? It was very clear from the beginning that these were two boring people. And you can tell that they're boring people because of the types of questions they were asking and the conversation they were having. A boring person asks this question when meeting someone: "Do you like to travel?" That is the most boring question anyone could ever ask another human. You might as well ask, "Do you like to breathe? Do you eat food sometimes?" That is a similar question to "Do you like to travel?" Because there is no one who can say no. Even if you hate the act of traveling, getting on an airplane, whatever, you like being other places. There is no one who's like, honestly, the only place I want to be is right where I am. And I have never enjoyed being anywhere except where I currently am.
Never left the state.
So if you ever are encountered with someone who asks you, "Do you like to travel?" that's a boring person. And that's okay. I'm going to venture to guess that at least 85% of the people on this planet are boring people. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you're not valuable. It just means that you're boring. And these people, Keith, were as boring as you could get.
Well, she handed it right back to him with, "Do you like sports?"
Exactly right. Which is why I think this might be a perfect match. Even though
by the way, how confident are we in our low viewership patterns that we are open? Like, you can piece this together. You can figure, if we had real viewers, this would not be hard. People know where I live. Like, this is not hard, and we don't care.
Yeah. So, we're going to run those odds, and we're going to see what happens. And I'm assuming they're not listening. But when she asked, "Do you like to travel?" he responded with almost a worse answer than just yes. He responded.
This really bothered you. This really
bothered me so much. He responded with, "I was just in Austin. Fine. So far, so good. With my buddies. Okay."
It's getting a little much. These folks are probably in their, yeah.
So they're in their mid-30s, easily in their mid-30s. And if you're at that age and you're talking about how drunk you got with your boys on a first date, you're doing it wrong. That stops being a positive right around 23 years old.
Yeah, you're being generous.
26, if it happens, it happens. After 26, mistakes have been made. Especially, then it becomes a "let us never speak of this again" type of weekend, because there could be, affidavits involved. He was so proud of the fact that he went to Austin with his boys. They got a lake house and they got schmacked. And he could not wait to tell this poor girl about it. And her reaction, Keith, was stone silence. It was not, "I've also been to Austin." It was not, "Oh yeah, me and my friends got so drunk at this bachelorette weekend." It was just no response, just leaving him out there.
Well, now he's in. But once he's in the story, I will tell you, once you go, you now have to continue. You have to continue the story. You have to continue the story. And, I suggested some very awkward answers that she could have given, which would have been, I will not repeat. So, but there are ways to kill that conversation. So we wanted to hang around and watch the end of that, but we would have had to make a very awkward. We would have almost had to couple up at that point because you would have had to grab me by the arm and be like, oh, let's look at the muffins. Let's go. Like,
fitting as it was your anniversary, and I feel like you deserve a little romance.
So, I mean, it was going to be difficult to make that, to hear the end of that. And, but the people watching, that's something I have desperately missed. And unmasked people watching, so you can really hear what's going on. And I was like whispering to you, I was like, is that a date? Like, I'm getting loud. Is that a date? So, all right. I know we have a lot of other things, but you're right. I think Ferris Bueller is probably the best analogy for the experience that we had. The only thing we didn't do was wreck a car. Otherwise, outstanding. It
was so great that I think it might become a tradition that we might have to have more Sportish days out in the future, going to sporting events all over the New York City metropolitan area.
Well, absolutely. And I think, the obviously the next generation of Sportish as a corporate entity is the Sportish experiences. So I'd be on the lookout. Obviously, we're not up to the Sportish cruise yet, namely because I do not want to get on a cruise ship at all. It does seem like whatever the next coronavirus is, it's going to start on a cruise ship. I mean, when you get on a cruise ship, we've been on this, the norovirus, like the unexpected stuff coming out of both ends. That's just the price of admission. like that's a given. If anyone doesn't want to be vomiting over the railing at some point, don't get on the ship. Like that's the reality. So but everything else, I expect there to be a lot of Sportish experiences.
Yeah. So whether the next great tradition is going to more games or apparently just creating a fecal Jackson Pollock on a boat somewhere, whatever the next great Sportish tradition is, it will come after one of the great traditions in not only Sportish history, but prior to this iteration of our show, we had a radio show where we also did this around this time of year. Keith Strudler tries to convince me to care at all, even a little bit, about the Tour de France. So without further ado, here is the 2021 edition of Keith Strudler tries to get Geoff Brault to care at all about cycling. Keith, the floor is yours.
Well, first off, I don't think I have to convince you. I think the verdict is in. The people have spoken. They love the Tour. So look, this year's Tour is off to a rocky start. So one of I think the most fascinating parts of the Tour de France, beyond the fact that beyond like bear wrestling, it is one of the most dangerous, like exciting sports of all time, right? It is just, you're putting yourself on the line, you're going down mountains at 60 miles an hour, all that kind of stuff. One of the most exciting things is the things that happen with fan engagement in the Tour de France. If they happened in any other sport in the world, they would shut it down immediately, right? If you had people at an NBA game standing over each player, like patting him on the back, being like, you can go, or like running with like cow horns and a cape in the middle of the court, trying to get them to run faster up the court, they would just shut the whole thing down, right? But in the Tour de France, fans line the side of the arena, for lack of a better word, and they become part of the actual activity. That is very exciting. That in itself, that kind of fan engagement should get you fully kind of in the fandom of cycling. But this year, we took it one step further. This year, a particular fan decided that she was going to make a sign. By the way, true story, we saw one fan walking to the NYCFC game with what looks like the saddest. Looks like he just had white poster board left over from a science product and a thin Sharpie that he was.
Yeah. Sportish PSA. If you're over 14 years old, there's two things you absolutely cannot do. You cannot bring a glove to a baseball game, and you cannot bring a homemade sign. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. One exception, college game day. One exception. Other than that, do not bring a sign into a stadium if you're over the age of 14, and do not bring a glove to a baseball game. Those things need to stop happening. You're welcome. You're welcome, America.
The glove is a form of personal protection, though, in some cases.
No. After the age of 14, you either have to wear it on the forehead or learn how to knock that thing down with your bare hands.
You know, I've got a little bit of a fear of getting hit by a baseball. That's up there. It's right with the Sharks.
Sit behind the net.
I net or I go as far up, like whatever the cheapest seat on the top. I tell you what, I was at a game a few years ago and we were sitting like off the outfield and like a foul ball in the outfield. It looked like no one, and we were pretty far up. I walked away to get ice cream. I come back and there was blood everywhere. The guy right in front of me got knocked out. No, I'm serious. He got knocked out by an Aaron Judge kind of line drive. This thing went, and I guess he thought, he didn't bring a glove. He didn't have a sign or a glove. Now, I don't think the glove was going to help him. I think this was coming in. This was detonating on his forehead one way or another. The thing knocked him out. And then it was so bad, they carried him away. And the guy next to him was also covered in blood. And to shut him up, they brought in like crates of like crappy Yankees gear. Like kind of like, no offense, NYCFC, kind of like they brought out the old hats. Take your pick. They brought out like Yankees gym shorts. Like these weren't like the nice jersey. These weren't like the nice jerseys. These were like, this was the crap you give away on, free bat night or something like that. So they gave him that because he was dripping blood basically. And so at any rate, but one of the fans at the Tour de France had a sign. She got right up on the side of the road and she decided she's going to show her favorite cyclist how much she wants them to keep moving as they're fighting up this hill. The problem is she knew how wide her arms were. She did not anticipate that the sign was going to go out further than her arm. She took out one cyclist, and this is a fun fact about cycling. When they're all in a pack, also known, Geoff, as the peloton, when they're all... No. The peloton is a stationary bike with a screen on it that all of my bourgeois friends have in their living room. Don't try to tell me what a peloton is. Where people yell at you like, you're going to have a great day. You're going to have a great day. Keep on going. Keep on going. I'll do the peloton. I'm not that. I'm a Zwifter. I'm not a peloton guy. I don't know what that is. No, I don't know that. What is a Zwifter and why did you refer to yourself as one of them? That's the one where you're actually racing real people. Oh, we've talked about this on the show. Yes. You want the peloton without any of the encouragement. You want all of the misery and none of the encouragement. By the way, I had a rare moment this morning where I saw someone who I thought was more miserable than I was. I was out cycling. Can't believe that's true. I was out cycling early this morning. It was hot. It's been a hot week, here in Northeast, right? And so I was out cycling, and there's this like a kind of a state park area where you can, is it state or region or county park, whatever, big park, beautiful, where there's hiking trails, and you can ride into it and ride a mile or so out one way and a mile back, and then you get back onto the main road. I saw some guy I know from work, and he was just kind of, and this is like 7 something in the morning. It's early. It's weird that he's just out there hiking. He's got a kid next to him. I'm like, hey, Randy, what are you doing? He's like, yeah, I'm on a scout camp out. So he's out camping with the scouts, hiking through these mountains. And by the way, it's hot. And I was like, he's basically like, yeah, it's a hot day out here. Like he's out there. I'm riding my bike back home. I'm going to get in my big fancy house and shower off and go to work. Mm-hmm. He's out there with his kids getting ready to grill up some hotcakes in 98-degree heat before they do they do a nature hike and do some basket weaving. He had it worse. That's terrible. Camping is a punishment. And I really can't remember or can't imagine anything worse than having to not only be camping on a 100-degree day, but doing it with children whose safety is your responsibility. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's really bad. Which brings me to another interesting question. This is a question that's been kind of going around the internet of late. And I think I agree with the sentiment. There is a growing consensus that we only like summer because of vacation from school. So we're conditioned from a young age to like summer because it's when you don't have to go to school, when objectively summer may be the worst season. Oh, no. That's just because you don't do anything outdoors. You're not active. True. I play golf all the time. Then summer is the best. The days, no. The days spring are and longer. Fall are objectively better than summer in every way. No, they're not. The spring is wet. It can rain a whole lot. Fall gets cold. The leaves are everywhere. Summer is you can get in lakes. You can swim. The days last till 8:30 at night. I mean, you have early morning. It's not even close. Summer is.
Ask the people in Portland how they're liking their summer right now. It's 108 degrees in half of this country.
I did like during the Olympic trials, they're like, we had to move this to earlier in the day because it was unsafe to run later. And it was still 85 and like, it was still hot. All right, getting back to the tour. I disagree. Summer is the best. I love summer. I also grew up down south. I like that weather. All right.
Third or fourth best season, depending on your thoughts on outdoor winter.
That might be the dumbest thing you've ever said. I mean, it might
Spring and fall are objectively better in almost every way. In almost every way.
In no way. That is someone who that is spoken by a hermit. All right. And so the Tour de France. So she knocks down a cyclist. She takes out this thing dominoes. She takes out the whole thing. One lady stands up there, holds up her sign to say, "Hey, I love whoever your favorite cyclist, probably Tadej Pogacar."
Well, I'm glad that you brought up my man Tadej Pogacar because he was in that crash. This lady took down my boy. Look how they massacred my boy. I was very upset when I learned the defending Tour de France champion and my favorite cyclist, Tadej Pogacar, was involved in that peloton dismounting.
So that should make you interested in the sport, regardless, just the fact that this can happen. The other thing that's interesting is now the Tour de France, and I don't know how this works, is going to sue the woman who held the sign. That I don't understand. So I don't understand this.
That is what actually has gotten me interested in the Tour de France, because that is the most French outcome from this situation, right? In America, you might take them to like a police station and make them, sign some forms or whatever and sit in a holding cell.
They might go to jail.
20 minutes.
They might.
Right.
Yeah.
France has decided, and by the way, keep in mind with the Tour de France, the cyclists came to her arena, right? They're out in the world. She didn't buy a ticket and go to their house. No. They held this event right through her street. I guarantee she lives up the hill.
You're making it sound like they're like they were hiking in the woods and they saw a bear. Which, by the way, I did see a bear last weekend. True story. Continue. And the bear made a move towards me, and I was like, "Here we go. It's on."
So the cyclists are on her turf. She does something she doesn't need to do. Hold this sign out to get it on television because people go crazy when they see a TV camera. It's why we're doing this right now. And so she holds that sign out, and a bunch of people crash, and she wisely decides, I should probably get out of here, and left before the authorities showed up. So the French authorities have no idea who this woman is. They do not know where she is.
I don't see them as moving it with particular haste either. I mean, I'm just going to stereotype here. They're like, it's siesta. We'll come in. I know that's Spain.
That's Spain. But the French are the people that take about 4 months off during the middle of the year. So
I'm sorry. You need us to come up in June? No, that's in September. We can do it. So
they've decided that they're going to find this woman and sue her.
Yeah.
What the hell does that look like?
I don't know. I mean,
sue her for what?
It does seem like the tour has more wherewithal than the person who's driving around in a Winnebago holding up a sign made out of a cardboard box from Amazon. So it does seem as though this is an odd thing. Now, I don't know if this is now to discourage people from doing this again. I don't think that will work. I don't know. It does seem like there's an easier way to deal with this, which is make some rules and put some barriers up. That does seem like a better way to do it. It's very hard to do that for 115 miles every day, but or as they like to call it, 180 kilometers. So I just find it very odd that is the decision. That's the tack they're going to take to sue her. I just don't know what they're going to get out of it. What if they lose? What if the tour loses and they're like, you know what? She has every right to knock everyone out.
Look, I'm not on her side because I think people that interfere with events are awful. So whether you throw a water bottle on the court or you hold a sign out over some bicyclists, you shouldn't do that. But I'm more sympathetic to someone like this woman because, again, this event's on her turf. They don't own the road. They don't own that road. She has almost as much right to be on that road as these cyclists do.
I've done like a race, a cycling race, like a duathlon in Central Park. And Central Park is, Central Park gets nutty. Even in these races, this is years ago, it was like 7 a.m. And I remember like I was right, pretty close to someone else. And we were kind of vying for the lead. And we're instructed to stay in the inside lane, and stay out of the way because you got rollerbladers. Yeah. And so you really are, you really try to follow. And some guy went whizzing by, and a rollerblader, like who, for what really seemed to be salty for no reason, just got unduly close to him and yelled at the cyclist. He's like, Central Park belongs to everyone. Like, just to make the point that I don't care if you're racing. Like, it was the most New York thing to ever say to anyone. Like, we're like going all out. We wreck, it's going to be a big problem. And he just wanted to I'm sure he was wearing like big headphones or something like that. So it is just a thing to do.
One last story before we wrap up our first post boys trip episode of Sportish. The NCAA for the last, 100 years has staunchly defended amateurism and has gone to great lengths to ensure that NCAA athletes not be paid because they must be amateurs. Why must they be amateurs? Because the NCAA says so until a couple days ago, where they have stopped saying so. And they now say that you could just go ahead and follow the laws in your state as they relate to you being able to profit specifically off your name, image, and likeness. NCAA backed off the amateurism decision as fast as anyone has backpedaled away from any long-held belief that I can recall. I mean, they literally have gone from this entire model breaks apart if these players are allowed to get paid to whatever, go ahead and do what you want. We're not going to be involved at all. And they did it in the seconds.
Look, I mean, they had a good 110-year run of policy, right? I mean, the NCAA was the early 1910s, right? They, president, they got the presidents of Yale, Harvard, and Princeton together, Teddy Roosevelt, and he's like, hey, make sure my kid doesn't get killed playing football. And by the way, don't pay him. And so they did that. They took care of it, right? The Ivies won the first 20 championships, then Army won a few, and then it was all Alabama. And it was 110 years of essentially the same thing, which is, look, there is no way they can get paid. It will destroy the sport. So please, no money. Make sure it all goes under the table in envelopes. That is the only way we want our players to be compensated, right? Is illegally through car dealerships. For what clearly, look, the pandemic, we all change, right? We all change. People grow apart. People grow, like you saw, I don't want to get into names. I found out recently that someone I knew seems to be separated from their husband. And I was very surprised. They were together for a long time. And then I found out apparently through Facebook, apparently I'm not even important enough to notify other than just seeing pictures. I mean, I'm a little disturbed by that. People change. So maybe the NCAA, after, 110 years, the vast majority of it having to listen to Jay Billis yell at them, maybe at that point, they decided it was time to change. They're also clearly, look, the NCAA has, if they have one thing, they got a whole lot of lawyers. Clearly, it became obvious that there was no pathway forward for them. And I'm guessing two things happen. And I say this without any knowledge of the fact. One is their lawyers said, we're not going to win. Like, we're going to lose. And perhaps it was even conversations with legislators and so forth. Because there are a lot of people in Congress and in state houses that have relationships certainly with the NCAA. So that may have been the first one. So the second is they probably are looking quite a bit at the economics and the fragility of what college sports is at this point. And, for all of the, it's going great, people love college football and we had March Madness, a lot of sports, a lot of teams that lose a lot of money. And there are probably a lot of organizations that are considering whether they want to continue to play. You keep hearing the grumblings of these amateur sports leagues or these semi-pro sports leagues that are going to steal the athletes away. They probably recognize, just from a pure economic perspective, even if they could win the legal case, they're going to lose both the dollars and the hearts and minds of the sports fans, who increasingly just don't care. They really don't care. So I think you couple that all together. I think what you're surprised at is what probably a lot of people are surprised at is we perceive this to be the most stubborn organization. Like they make you look flexible in your viewpoints.
I mean, this was like the only thing I could equate it to is this would be if like a staunch defender of the Second Amendment woke up tomorrow and was like, you know what, we could do with less guns. like that's that is
but
how
does that happen? Don't
intractable. I don't think so. I don't think, not in America anyway. America is the land of the free and the intractable opinion.
Don't people have these don't you have people have these epiphanies? Like people who are like didn't believe in God and then they get saved by, from something and then they're like, Jesus saves. I mean, doesn't that happen? Don't people just change their minds? Not you.
No, I don't think so.
You don't change your mind.
I think once you decide something, that is, you hold on until she bucks you.
You hold on to a grudge longer than any human being I think I've ever known.
Yeah, revenge is a dish best served cold. I do have a follow-up question. As someone who's not married but will one day be divorced, what is the proper way to announce your divorce?
Oh, you're saying am I the person that's going to be divorced someday?
No. I said I'm not married, but I do expect to one day be divorced. So I would like to know. Although then again, I mean, you did spend your anniversary with me, so I mean, you're not totally off the hook. But how do you notify people that you're getting divorced? Like, what's the protocol there?
I'll tell you what. I'm a big fan of the divorce party. I'm a big fan of the divorce party. I'm a big fan of it because there's less pressure. You certainly don't have to deal with both sides. It's not like I'm with the groom. The divorce party is the wedding you always wanted.
Sure.
Right? The divorce party is the wedding. So I think if you're going to get divorced, it's a little impersonal. I think it's a little callous to announce it on Facebook, to be like, hey guys, I just realized that guy is a chump. I don't like. So I think, and obviously, in the divorce situation, you're now dividing friends. The party is also a great way to put a flagpole. You send out the invites.
I actually really like the idea of the divorce party. To me, it's like how the best 2 weeks of any job or the 2 weeks after you put in your notice. A divorce party to me is almost exactly like that. You're totally off the hook. You can do whatever you want, but everything around you is still ostensibly the same. Like it's the same people. They still relate to you in the same way. But now the rules no longer apply and you're totally free of all the burden and obligations you had before. So I like that a lot. In fact, I think it's the only way it can be done is there has to be a divorce party.
But I think it's a requirement.
I think you got to take it even one step further. A surprise divorce party.
That could go really poorly. I could see how that could backfire. What if you had throw them a surprise divorce party and they're getting back together? What if they literally are getting and they both show up together? Surprise!
I think it's got to be the other way. I think it's got to be surprise. We're getting divorced. You can't let people know that that's what they're coming to celebrate.
That's a great idea. Sportish could launch that. We could do the Sportish divorce experience. Full circle. I know we're out of time.
And that's what we're going to talk about now for an hour off air, and then we'll bring you the highlights in next week's episode. Those guys are hanging with us on For the Fans, FTFnext.com, wherever you get your podcasts, or YouTube. He's Keith. I'm Jeff. We'll see you next week if you can find us, because we don't know when we air. But we're on sometimes. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Sportish. See you next time.